Hello, everybody out there. I am Wally Whipplesnatch.
And this is Daryl Dingle.
And this is Bob Knobson. And today we're doing a Gulp review of... I am Steel Boy.
Arachnid Dude.
And I am Crotch Rocket.
So, Crotch Rocket, let's start with you. What did you think of The Incredibles 2?
I loved this film. This was a wonderful follow-up to the original film. I found it to be very exciting.
Da-da-da-da!
What did you think, Arachnid Boy?
Dude.
Oh, sorry.
I thought it was a great film. It lived up to being a great sequel to what was a fantastic movie, the first time. I loved
fantastic Mr. Beast.
Yes. I loved it, and I'm glad, I was happy to see, one of the biggest things is I was happy to see the same creator being able to continue the film and to see his vision, and it turned out spectacular.
Well put, Arachnid Man. I also thought this movie was incredible. Oh, what a great follow-up. I was very nervous about seeing this movie. It almost broke through all my layers of steel, but in the end, I was so surprised, and not really surprised. I had faith in Brad Bird, but I was really happy to see how good of a part 2 this movie really was. Took these characters and the story in a little bit different direction. I mean, I said it in the first movie, but I'll say it again here. Elastigirl is so hot in this movie. They just give her an ass in this movie, and the camera closes up on that hourglass. Am I wrong, Arachnid Boy?
I think they do a good job of following up the family storyline. I think they do a really good job of expanding on the children, which was a thing that I really enjoyed in this movie, is giving them a bigger part, fleshing out their characters even more. I think they do a really good job in the first film of letting us know a lot about this family dynamic, but they followed up really well in this film. And not to give anything away, but the way that they kind of split up the family at times, and you see certain scenes that deal with Mr. Incredible taking care of the children, expanding on Jack becoming such a bigger part of the film than he was in the first film.
The scene stealer.
Jack owns this movie, man.
Yeah, he's incredible in this movie, and really a true source of the comedy in the film. I do think that the first film, I think, was funnier, in my opinion, than this one, but I found myself laughing a lot in this movie.
I think I laughed more in this one, honestly.
Yeah?
Like we were saying, you thought the first one was more emotional, or this one I thought it was just more funny, more fun.
This one was more fun. Well, no, I wouldn't say more fun. I kind of think the first film works on every level a little bit better than this one, but this film works on every level. It's not like it fails anywhere. It's just that it's living up to an original that's really hard to
The bar was set really high.
The bar was set really high.
Yeah, I think the two films are different enough from each other, which is what I am so happy about reporting on the sequel, is that it's a very different movie than the first one. The first one is that coming of age. First one's so bubbly and so fun, as is this one. There's a little tiny bit of difference. Well, Jack, I want to talk about Jack because he crushed it in this movie. I'm so happy that they kept the themes and they really rolled with that one little tiny snippet kind of tease that you get at the end of the first one and just made it into this amazing thing. I want to say one of the best scenes in any animated movie I've ever seen is watching Jack fight Rocket Raccoon.
Edna Modes, is that her name? Modes. She was great. Another scene stealer in the film. Not used as much, but she's not used a lot in the first film. So it has one or two scenes. About the same amount of screen time, but still really worked and was really funny in this film.
Yeah.
Well, I think she's got her specialty, and they really play her well for what she adds to her uniqueness.
I almost expected her to be in it more, like they knew that she was kind of a scene stealer from the first one, where she was gonna suit up or something in this film. But thankfully, that doesn't happen.
I love you, Brad Bird.
Yeah, because he has restraint. He knows what to bring back and just how to use it.
He didn't throw in the kitchen sink.
Exactly.
Frozone gets a couple of extra scenes here, but they're highly advertising Frozone in the trailers, and he's just did a little bit more of it in this one than he is in the first one. First one he comes in the beginning, he comes in at the end. Here he's got a couple of middle scenes, but other than that, he's not overused.
Yeah, I felt it really worked though.
He's an awesome character.
He is an
Samuel
awesome
Jackson just cracks me up when he does the voice. It's so funny.
There's some other supers added to this film that we didn't see in the previous film, which had some really interesting powers. But in the action scenes, when you see these supers either fighting each other or assisting each other, there's just amazing use of seeing them work together or battle each other out in this, better than any of the Marvel movies, better than so many other
because you actually
attempts
saw
at superhero movies.
You actually saw like, okay, I have a power where I'm going to try to use it to counteract yours when they're fighting, and they were very clever about it. And then on the flip side, you've got them once they started assisting each other, like, oh, I'm going to combine this, you do this, you do that, and it all comes together to form like a really cool scene.
Out of all 8 Harry Potter movies, I kept waiting for the big wizard battles where it really felt like they were using their powers to counteract each other. And there's only one scene in Flight of the Phoenix one, or whatever the hell, where you see at the end the two main wizards, whatever, Voldemort and Gaydorf.
I understand, because it's an animated movie, you can really showcase someone like Elastigirl's powers, for instance. There's a scene, her big, kind of set piece, where you didn't really get to see this kind of Elastigirl in the first movie. Because this one is like where she's the superhero, and she gets this chance to kind of save this situation. And it is so cool watching how in control of her power she is, and how much of a badass she is, and how she uses the Elastigirl motorcycle.
Yeah, they give her a good spotlight.
Those scenes were incredibly done. Just like everything is realized. Like, you're never confused. Everything, you can see it perfectly, how she does what she does, and it's still cut really fun and intense, but you can understand what's happening on screen.
I think it's a good balance, because you got that camera work where you can really do, and then with her time to shine, because first movie was Mr. Incredible. This one's more focused on her.
Sure.
So we got to see like what it can be like to be him with his strength and being sort of indestructible, but not really. And here she's got the stretch powers that they really made good use of like, when you have this kind of power, what can you do with it?
Yeah.
Again, as Blue Steel said, Brad Bird knows what to do with this follow-up to bring some of the things we didn't get to see in the first one and still keep it interesting.
Yeah. Snatch Rocket bringing up the point of like, when you add all these new supers, which is really cool, then it almost turns it, there's like scenes in this that almost feel like the X-Men scene we never got, where there's 20 X-Men people fighting each other at once and using their powers against each other, and seeing how those powers kind of combat one another. Cockknocker, what did you think about the Screen Slaver?
I found the villain to be really kind of creepy. When you first are introduced to this villain.
Totally.
I think as the film progresses and you learn some of the motivations of the villain, it's not as strong as Syndrome from the first film, in my opinion. They're very different villains on screen. Their motivations are very different. But yeah, it worked for the first half of the film, and then kind of wasn't as strong in the end, but the heroes are so exciting, and the action stays exciting all the way right till the finale of the film.
Well, there were so many parts where everyone was universally clapping or in joy for what was being shown on screen.
Yeah.
And you don't get that very often.
No, you don't. And that's the movie-going frickin' experience right there.
And it's not like a Marvel movie that happened 6 months ago where they're excited to see our heroes back on screen after only 6 months. This has been how many years?
14 years.
14 years.
Doesn't it feel like it's just a 3-year gap? I mean, it's so well done. It's like... Brad Bird is just the man. Like, this is a sequel that feels like it just happened.
Well, other than hearing a little bit of age in the voice of Mr. Incredible and Mrs. Incredible, I think the two of them, you can tell, have aged a bit in their voice.
I love Catherine Keener, but I wasn't feeling it that much.
I honestly, until you told me after, I couldn't place the voice. I kept thinking it was one of, Frasier's assistant, the woman who plays Frasier's assistant. But I'm like, how did she end up in Incredible? She hasn't been on TV for 20 years.
Let me tell you something about animated films to me, and the reason they don't always go over that well. When it's a talking animal, whatever, it doesn't matter. But when the voice actor is very important to me. If the voice actor... If I know who it is and I have a face to the name, if you make that character, if you don't give them any likeness of that and they just look... Basically, we're hearing Catherine Keener's voice with like a 1994 version of Angelina Jolie from like fucking...
From Hackers.
Hackers, yeah. And it just didn't gel. I was like, no, that's not this person's voice.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't place it, I think. Or I think there's an actress from Melrose Place with like these big puffy lips. I don't know her name, but it looked a lot like her as well. Like there's all these
I know who you're talking to. The Melrose Place. She was also on Days of Our Lives or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Billy.
what I kept
yeah. She totally looks like her, man.
But whatever, if they do a third one, whatever choices Brad Bird, as long as he's involved,
he needs to be involved.
I will be happy with wherever they're going to take it.
I just want a line in the next one where Mr. Incredible says to the kids, you know what, kids? As soon as you're my age, I'll be dead.
Crotch Rocket, engage! My Gulp score for this movie. I really did enjoy this as a great follow-up, a great sequel. I feel like at this point we should have maybe be seeing the third film in this series because so much time had passed. But you know what? It was totally worth the wait. I loved it. It was super entertained. I do think the first one is a better film, but this one was a great follow-up. I love the action. I always say in our reviews when I get to see a film that has kinetic action where one thing leads to the next, that's the kind of style of action movie that I want to see. Typically with like Pixar, Disney, you don't think of them as action films. You know, they're comedies first usually, but both of the Incredible films are really strong action movies in my opinion with all the comedy that you want as well. So super entertained. Happy to go see this again. One of the best films of the year. I don't think it's going to beat our favorite of the year at this point, but I got to go pretty high with my Gulp score and say I would put this at about a 7.75.
Arachnid Dude obviously approves as well. Several webs up. But in all seriousness, great sequel. Great opportunity to see like the original creator coming back, directing, writing, and while that sometimes can be a hit or miss, absolute hit in this case. I want Brad back for the third, you know, that there should be a third. And so definitely it was wonderful, from great animation, great camera work, great continuation of these characters' stories, you know, and a really just great fun time. So for me, I give this a 9.
Very good.
Steel Boy thinks that Incredibles 2 is pretty great. I think it's a great sequel, man. Yeah, like John said, it's 14 years later. Who gives a shit? It felt like it was just a couple years later. It felt like a normal sequel. I thought it had great writing like the first one, great character moments, all those use of powers that we love so much. I think Brad Bird knocked it out of the park. I'm glad he came back and did this, and I'm glad he did it his way, and it wasn't like fan service, and it wasn't kitchen sink. It was just a really good, balanced movie. I give it 8 1/4 gulps. I am 40 years old. When I am 54, I will see you guys for the Incredibles 3 Gulp review. What about you, John? You still be around for that?
I'm 42 and I'm wearing a superhero mask. That's all I have to say.
So he'll still be alive because he's not much of a partier.
And I'm 38. I better still be alive when the next one comes out.
So if you guys like this review, please click like and or subscribe to Cinema Gulp today.
Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you hit the notification bell after you subscribe.
And for Cinema Gulp, this is Bob Knobson.
And this is Wally Whipplesnatch.
And this is Daryl Dingle.
And we didn't forget our names!
We drink your cinema!
I drink it up!